Om Sarvadharma Sthapakastam Sarvadharma Swarupakah Acharyanam Mahacharyo Ramakrishna Ayate Namaha. We are studying here Sri Ramakrishna the Great Master and its fifth part, the Master in Divine Mood and Narendranath, and we are in the chapter 7, na?
6.
Oh, it is a big chapter. I could have gone back to see. Okay. Where is, oh, very long. Relation, there are two sections, that is over. And now, chapter 7, the Master's method of testing and Narendranath. And we have seen the various ways in which the Master used to test, and about the physical appearance of the body and functions of the body. And that functions, he is telling that story of Hanuman Singh. Para number 9, Hanuman Singh, the gatekeeper. The Master described to us an event pertaining to this. This means how bodily functions show the inner character. A man named Hanuman Singh was appointed to guard the Dakshineshwar temple during Mathura Babu's time. Although he was one of the several gatekeepers, there are many. Many gates are there and many gatekeepers are there. Hanuman Singh enjoyed greater respect, for not only was he a well-known wrestler, but also a single-minded devout person. Ekanta Bhakti about Hanuman. Devout aspirant. Another wrestler came to Dakshineshwar in order to defeat Hanuman Singh, who was a worshipper of Mahavir. Mahavir means Hanuman. In Bengali, Hanuman is always referred as Mahavir, because by Hanuman they mean that species. And to take his place. Hanuman Singh saw his sturdy body, physical strength, etc., but he did not hesitate to accept the challenge. A day was fixed, and persons like Mathur Babu were appointed judges to decide which of them were superior. The wrestler, the newcomer, began to eat heaps of nutritious food and practice physical exercise for about a week before the day of wrestling. On the contrary, Hanuman Singh took his bath in the morning, repeated as usual the mantra of his chosen ideal during the whole of the day, and took one meal a day in the evening. He was a very staunch devotee. Darwan, but taking only one meal in the evening. All things strange during Thakur. Extreme and strange. Everyone thought that Hanuman had got frightened and had given up hopes of success. The master loved him and therefore asked him the day before the competition, "You have not prepared your physique by practicing bodily exercise and eating nutritious food. Do you think you will succeed in the competition with the new man?" Hanuman bowed down to him with devotion and said, "I'll certainly win if your grace is bestowed on me. It is not by eating a heap of food that strength comes to the body. The food must be digested." I secretly saw the faces of the other wrestler and found that he was eating food beyond his power of digestion. The master said that Hanuman Singh actually defeated that man in wrestling on the day of the competition. We can add one more thing. He said, "Apnar kripa thakle, to parak Thakur's kripa victory." Ascertaining whether a woman is a Vidya Shakti or an Avidya Shakti by observing her actions and the formation of her limb. Now, this is very strange. How did he know this about women? When did he observe? So at Sardan Swami says, is there any book like that? So it is only, the context running is, it is only from his bhav, because he was God himself. So from that bhav, he knows all minds, all bodies, interrelations, connections. But we have not heard this about any other avatar. Unique things. The master said many things about the formation of the limbs of women's bodies. That is, in men we have seen two things, physiology and action, anatomy and physiology, as well as those of men. That means not only women, both in you. Observing these, he specified some women as Vidya Shaktis. In other words, as those helping men in their Godward progress, Vidya Shakti. And others as Avidya Shaktis, that is those who drag man towards worldliness. Drag man. He said, the Vidya Shaktis take a small quantity of food, require a little sleep, and have naturally little attachment to the senses. This is the Vidya Shakti. Their hearts are especially filled with joy to hear their husbands talk of God. One after the other. They themselves talk of the Lord and give their husbands a high spiritual impulse, always protecting them from mean inclinations and actions and assisting them in all matters. So, protecting them, that means if some bad thought comes, they will check them because they have that strength, character. And assisting them in all matters so that they may be blessed by realizing God at last. Full description of Vidya Shakti, how she pushes man into realization. We can quote among Thakur's disciples, Balram Babu's wife and all that. So that they may be blessed. The nature and actions of Avidya Shaktis, on the other hand, are of quite an opposite kind. They are seen to hanker after many physical comforts. such as food, sleep, etc., and their chief aim is to prevent their husband from paying attention to anything except contributing to their own happiness. If their husbands speak to them about spiritual things, they become displeased and annoyed. You have seen people in your young age? The master sometimes said that the external form of that particular sense organ, with the help of which women acquire the prerogative of motherhood, indicates their inward attachment to sensual enjoyment. Bapre. এটা একটু কোডিং ওয়ার্ডে পুট করেছেন না যে ইন্দ্রিয় বিষয়ের সহায়ে রমণীগণ মাতৃত্ব পদ গৌরব লাভ করিয়া থাকেন তার বাহ্যিক আকার হইতে অন্তরের ভোগাসক্তির পরিচয় পাওয়া গিয়া থাকে Anyway, we need not worry about it. He also said that its form varied. Some of its forms indicated a very small amount of beastliness. Again, he said that those whose buttocks bulge out like the hind parts of black ants have that inclination to an inordinate degree. What the master said about Narendra's physical characteristics. So on everything general described. Now he has to test Narendra by this. Thus there is no limit to what the master told us about ascertaining human character by physiognomical observations. He regarded it as one of the means of knowing the character of people. And he examined Narendra and all other devotees with itself. On thus examining Narendra, he was pleased and said to him one day, all the parts of your body have good characteristics. The only defect is that you breathe a little heavily when asleep. Yogis say that one breathing so heavily is short-lived. So that is what happened in Narendra. Now, 2 points have been over. Ascertaining natural tendencies by observing mental reactions revealed in trifling activities, and by observing the degree of attachment to lust and God revealed in those activities. Character in general and specifically about lust and God. Secondly and thirdly. So these 2 parts they are included in one. Secondly and thirdly, the observation of mental states revealed by ordinary actions and that of the attachment to lust and God so revealed by ordinary actions were regarded by the master as the second and third means of knowing the nature of a particular person. The master used to observe a newcomer silently for some time. Then when he had decided to take him into his circle, that we saw that, he would try to make him give up those defects by giving him various instructions and a gentle scolding if necessary. So this testing is both ways. If something wrong, but otherwise the man is good, so tell him to reduce that by instruction or by scolding. And if it is good, then proceed in the other way. Again, along with the decision of choosing the man, he would settle whether he would mold his life as a monk or a lady's help. Because if that thing is stronger than, or for many reasons, and would impart instruction accordingly from the beginning. The master therefore asked every visitor if he was married, if the financial conditions of the family was sufficient for providing plain living, and if there was any near relation who could take up the responsibility of maintaining the family if he renounced the world. Householders, that means married people, they can renounce the world if these things are favorable. So the instruction of guiding everyone was different. The master's impression about boys. The master was always seen to have a great compassion for students of schools and colleges. He said their minds have not yet been distracted by wife, children, fame, etc. If rightly educated, they could apply their whole mind to God. That means marriage have gone, children another quarter gone. If subtler things, fame and other things, then gone. But he guides those people also in a different way. He therefore made a great effort to impart spiritual ideas to them. He expressed that opinion with the help of various illustrations. He said the mind is like a bundle of grains of mustard seed. Once scattered, it becomes almost impossible to collect them together. There is a funny incident. This mustard seed in Bengali is Sarshe, and Sarisha is the name of a town. Now one brahmachari came from Sarisha. The Mahapuruji used to call him Sarshe. And he's telling, oh Sarshe, chodiye pudishni, kudalo dai have. So that mustard seed don't get spread out, otherwise very difficult to collect. Mind. So that is the example. Mustard seed scattered, difficult to collect. Because they roll, go on rolling. Once the colored ring appears around the neck, it is very difficult to teach the parrot to pronounce Radha Krishna. That Kanthanal Puch. Footprints of cows on unburnt tiles can easily be effaced. But when the tiles are burned, those marks cannot be obliterated. After their fried, cow mark does not come. Cow mark comes on the unfried. And at that point, if they are fried, it becomes firm. And so on. He therefore put questions particular to the students of schools and colleges, inexperienced in worldly life, and gathered whether the natural tendency of their minds was towards worldly enjoyment or renunciation. And if he thought them fit, guided them on the latter path. So as school children used to test two things, general and lust and good. And if you found right, they would correct. He observed every action of the devotees who came to him. The master did not stop simply with making out the mental state of a particular person by observing all his actions minutely, but he would investigate closely and see how simple and truthful he was. First thing. Simplicity, in English there are two words, simple and simpleton. You don't know. Simpleton means foolish. So, and sometimes it appears similar. But simple mind, Thakur says, is obtained after many tapasya of many years. And God is simple, he says, because he is one without a second. So simple mind realizes God, surely. So simplicity is a great character.
Is it same as Rajuta?
Rujuta. Now why it's important? If we have selfish desires, we use shortcuts. the mind goes crooked way. Among the Pandavas, Arjun, Rijuta, Duryodhan, all crooked ways. So that is Thakur's observation. And he could observe it by their smaller actions. So simplicity, secondly, truthful. About truthful, I will tell one story. We have seen that during Thakur's truthfulness. Two stories I will tell. One boy wanted to marry a girl. So the girl's father invited him and is interviewing him. Do you smoke? No. Do you drink? No. So many things he asked. And he went on telling no. So the father was very much impressed and said, then you have perfect character, no defect. He says, one thing is there. Now and then I tell lies. One of our Swamis, I remember, Kalipada Maharaj, a great Vedanti he was. He used to say, lust I can understand, there is a force. But how man speaks lies, I cannot understand. Now you understand why man speaks lies? Selfishness. That is the only purpose for one. So Thakur checks this. I will tell another wonderful story. I was in Mumbai for about 3 years. Car. One girl, brilliant girl, graduate, she was there appearing for me. Came to me one day and said, I want to learn yoga. This Patanjali, this Ramdev Baba was not at all known in those days. So I asked, which yoga you want? She said, Raju. So I was surprised really, girls. I said, you read Swamiji's Rajoga and then come to me. So she read and next week she came. I said, you have understood? She said, yes, 10 things are necessary. So I said, you examine yourself on those 10 and then tell me. So she came maybe in 1 day or 2 and said that 9 are all right. One thing is Brahma. We, she said. Now we means girls in general or what, I do not know. We tell stories. Understood? Make up stories. Then I said, you have to correct this. You observe this and come again. After 1 week she came and said, not possible. I said, try. Another week she came and said, not possible. I said, try. Third week she comes and tells, inside us so many spaces there, so many things are there. I could see the whole world outside in my mind. I could see my own mind. I could see my own buddhi. So what I gathered from this? Why she said Rajoga? She had practiced it in her previous births. And she has obstructed on this truth point. And the moment she has not yet started practicing Rajoga. But the moment she corrected on this truth point, all the past impressions. I will never forget that incident. So what Patanjali said, Satya, that is so important. She said, in 9 I seem to be all right, but 1 is good. And when that is corrected, this will happen. Then, how far it translated into action, what he expressed in words. That is Thakur's answer, Manmukha. Vocally we may say many things without meaning or not following that. Whether he perform every action with proper discrimination, every action, proper discrimination has to. What is discrimination? Ordinarily we say between good and bad, between Nitya and Anitya. I would say whether this will lead me spiritually or not. So every action without proper thinking don't do. One Sanskrit shloka I will tell. Must be from Bhartrhari, I do not remember. In general, about the world, Sahasa vidadit na kriya aviveka parama padam padam vivrunute hi vimrushya karinam gunalubdha swayameva sampada. They are about earning money. That don't do any action suddenly without vivek. That suddenness is the cause of many problems. And if you practice vivek every time, then wealth will be attracted to your gunas and will come automatically. That is the shloka. I will tell another funny incident. Who is known for reacting without thinking? I am not condemning a race. Sikhs. The Punjabis in general, I would say, not only Sikhs. In Delhi, about 50 years back, I am telling, a Sikh gentleman with his wife sat in the auto rickshaw. And that rickshawala perhaps felt happy because he has got passenger and started singing Lal Dupatta or something. And the Sikh man came out and stabbed him. You are insulting my wife. When I was given a welcome in Chandigarh, they introduced me, they introduced them. I said, I will introduce you to yourself, Punjabis. So I described some situation and said the Punjabis won't think at all in the beginning, etc., etc. One gentleman, very sharp, he said, you have caught us rightly. We do not think in the beginning. And then repent afterwards. But another man explained, we have always faced war. That is how this habit has come, he says. Anyway, they would say this South Indian, they will think and think and think, not do anything. Anyway, so this is Thakur's observation in spiritual life. Very important. We call those persons as impulsive. How and how far he was convinced of the truth of what was taught and saw. Convinced of the truth. That is that Shraddha. Shastrasya Guru Vakyasya Satya Buddhya Avadarana. So you are listening. I will tell you incident again. One innocent boy, innocent means simpleton maybe. Later on he became a sannyasi, but he was just a volunteer and he used to attend our classes. Now some point my teacher said, and this boy shouted in the class, you are right, Maharaj, you are right. Understood what happened? That thing came, that is the truth. So
Swamiji, remember Swamiji and Ladu Maharaj. Na, Sharat Maharaj. Sharat Pandit ठीक बोले थे.
What are Latu Maharaj?
Ladu Maharaj spoke to Sharat Maharaj.
No, Sudhir Maharaj.
Oh, Sudhir Maharaj. Sudhir Sharat.
Pandit ठीक बोल. That is telling with the experience.
Now, as you said, the once the truth is there,
yes,
means people.
But I am talking of the conviction of truth. And Latu Maharaj experience.
Different.
Yeah. So that is the thing. convinced of the truth of what was taught, and so on. Here are a few examples. So first points described, no examples. That is his style throughout Leelaprasanga. Examples. A boy had been frequenting Dakshineshwar for a few days when one day the master asked him suddenly, "Why don't you get married?" Suddenly asked him. That means not giving time for thinking out some answer. And inside outside will come out. Sir, replied he, my mind has not yet come under my control. If I am married now, I shall get attached to my wife, and that will destroy my power of discrimination between what is beneficial and what is not. If I can ever conquer lust, I shall get married. Master understood that if he conquers lust, he will never marry. The master knew from this that although there was attachment within the mind of the boy, attachment within the mind of the boy had been attracted toward the path of renunciation, and said, smiling, there will be no necessary for marriage when you conquer lust. So the mind is revealed in that answer. Oh, I'm tempted to tell so many things. My introduction to my Guruji. My name had already gone there. Bhashyananji had come to our house, and there was Ampaji, all that report had gone. So when I went to Nagpur, my first visit, he made me sit on the chair. I remember this scene. Bhashyanji is standing back to the wall, and he made me sit on the chair. And he's asking me questions, brainstorming questions. That means before I could reply, he was asking next question. And all questions comparative and why. Example, do you love Thakur more or Ma or Swamiji? Why? Will you prefer Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga or Bhakti Yoga? Why? What have you read in the religious literature? Who among them is superior and why? Like that and that and that. Then some other means you may have to stay alone if you are sadhu. That is perhaps seeing the future. And you will have to cook yourself. Do you know cooking? He tested me for cooking. That was after joining, but he had asked that day itself. He made me cook every day's meal. And some special sweet dish, some special salty dish. And he said that you may have to live alone. And for the sake of some special dish, you need not go to devotee's house. So I tasted. Anyway, now, after that was over, during that time I was feeling my stomach is being churned. And every stomach is represented. Physically I was feeling like that. And every thought inside me is being taken out. And that day, that conviction came, he is my Guru. And when I finished, that at the end, he looked at Bhashan and he said, good boy. So I knew that I have passed. And when I came out in the veranda, my legs were shaking like anything. So here I remembered this by this. Suddenly, he asked. Talking to a boy one day at Dakshineshwar on various topics, he said, Will you please tell me what it is? I can by no means keep a piece of cloth always on my lungs. It does not remain there. I don't even know when it has fallen off. I told you this. Then the body consciousness is not there, friction cannot come. I, a man so advanced in age, go about naked. But nevertheless, I don't feel my nakedness. I don't feel my nakedness. He is not shy about that. Only he has to go. I is telling Ashin Babu that when Keshav and others come, somehow I have to keep my dhoti. And talking like this, he said, "Dat sala dhoti." He threw out. And he is asking, am I uncivilized? Formerly, I had no consciousness at all of who saw me in that state. Knowing that those who see me feel shame, I now keep a cloth on my lap. The boy replied, "Sir, I am not sure, but I can put up." No. Can you stand naked like me in the presence of people? The boy replied, "Sir, I am not sure, but I can put off my cloth if you ask me to do." That means this is the reflection of Thakur's influence. In presence of Thakur, he does not feel that shame or body consciousness so much. But in general, he cannot do that. Oh, it is not in front of you, huh? But I can put off my cloth if you ask me to. He said, "Just let me see. Go around the courtyard of the temple with your cloth tied around your head like a turban." The boy said, "I cannot do that, but I can do so before you only." The master heard it and said, "Many others also say so." So this is the general influence of Thakur's personality. They say we don't feel shame in putting off the wearing cloth in your presence, but feel it before others. Now, example. I died in the Ganga. You people have not seen this, no?
Not that big, but smaller. So we have seen.
Smaller you have seen. Nowadays, practically it is not there. Because so many things jetting inside the river has come. And so it gets broken everywhere. When we were in the training center, the time is 12.5 hours that range. So today at this time, and sometimes after our noon meals, just to rush somehow and go and see that. So Thakur has gone without cloth. We remember another event in this connection. It was a night flooded with moonlight. Night, but moonlight. The second or the third night of the dark fortnight. Dark fortnight means after Purnima, so it is still moonlight. The flood tide came to the Ganga shortly after we went to bed. The master left his bed and ran to the embankment, calling everyone, "Come you all to see the tide." It's a phenomenon. You see, the water is flowing down. And in the ocean, that up tide has come. So the water flows in the Ganga. And that rides over this water. That is that bond. This water is flowing down. And that water comes. So it rides over this. Like a wall it passes. So that is a sight to see. Thakur went. He danced like a boy to see the calm white water of the river convert itself into high waves crested with foam. Come like one mad with a terrible force and upward surge and leap upon the embankment. We were drowsy when the master called us. We were a little late in following him, for we had to get up and take care of our clothes. Therefore, scarcely had we reached the embankment when the tide passed away. Some of us saw a little of it, while others saw nothing at all. The master was so long happy by himself. When the tide went away, he looked at us and asked, "Well, how did you witness the tide?" Hearing that the tide went away when we were putting on our cloth, he said, "Ah, fools, will the tide wait for you to put on your cloth? Why did you not leave your cloth behind like me?" Now, these are certain lessons. It was night, people will not see. But the natural instinct of shame does not allow a man to do so. One should know that the aim of life is God realization and nothing else, and should orient one's activities toward that. That is it. After these points, lust and God, aim of life, whether it is fixed in mind or not. In answer to the master's questions such as, do you wish to marry? Will you serve? Some of us said, sir, I don't wish to marry, but I shall have to take service. These days it is very common. But the answer seemed to the master, who was a great lover of freedom, to be extremely unreasonable. He said, if you will not marry and perform the duties of a family man, why should you be a servant of another for life? Offer your whole heart and mind to God and worship Him. A man born in the world cannot do anything greater than that. If you find it quite impossible to lead a single life, marry. But know once for all that God realization is the ultimate aim of life, even for the Grahastha. Ultimate aim of life will not change. They will go through a little slower process. These people will go directly. Tread the path of righteousness and live a householder's life. Important, eh? Now, householder's life, it is very difficult to practice righteousness. And so people give up righteousness. But if you stick to righteousness and follow householder's life, then great struggle comes. And that struggle is the cause of evolution. Our olden society, Grahastha Vanaprastha Sannyas, was based upon this. In Taittiriya Upanishad Shikshavali, you see, Dharmam Chara, Satyam Vada Dharmam Chara, and Prajatantu Ma Vayachetsi, go and marry, all that thing is there. Even you will have a grandson, but don't forget to study. So all those instructions are there. And that led man as evolution. This was his definite opinion on the matter. Therefore, he felt a severe blow at heart when he heard that any one of those whom he considered to be the best of moderate aspirants in the spiritual world. One word is missed, or I did not read it.
He considered to be the best of moderate aspirants in the spiritual world.
The best of moderate aspirants? No, it's a wrong translation. You see, in the Adhikara, Uttam, Madhyam, Adam Adhikaris are there. If he is either Uttam or Madhyam, then he can lead this life. Uttam or Madhyam. Here the translation is Uttam among the Madhyamas. The best of moderate aspirant. Moderate also is not good. Anyway, Uttam, Madhyam, Adam. So both Uttam and Madhyam are qualified for this sannyas.
In spite of, it may be or. The best or moderate. The best or then maybe like that.
Huh? He felt a severe blow at heart. Huh? His heart.
Perhaps he's categorizing among the
No. He is loving his disciples and those future sannyasi disciples. So it hurts him if any one of them has accepted service. If others do service, it is not for it because they have to earn money. The householder's duty is to earn money because he has to support his family. That is very clear. His first talk with Master Masha and all that is very, very clear in that. But if you don't have to marry, why should have service and become a slave to somebody? These days, the worldly atmosphere has changed so much. Now take girls for example. Girls feel that if they have a job, they are free. Otherwise, they'll have to marry and get subjugated to somebody. So the concepts have changed. But Thakur would not like it. Again. Why this temptation is coming to me of becoming personal? Anyway, my younger sister, my Guruji told my parents, she will remain in the house, not go to any mutt. But please don't pressurize her to marry. If you pressurize, then I don't know what she will do. Like that, he threatened. They said, we are not going to pressurize her. So that was my opinion. She did not do any job. MA in Sanskrit. Just 4 years younger to me. She is still there. He considered to be, this is a great thing. What to say? First or second class or what? How to translate the in poet? We have not brought that book today. No? Uttam or Madhyam Adhikari.
Bengali, what is Bengali, what is written?
Bengali Uttam or Madhyam. সেই জন্য আধ্যাত্মিক রাজ্যে উত্তম ও মধ্যম অধিকারী বলিয়া যে সকল ব্যক্তিকে তিনি বুঝিতে পারিতেন তাহাদিগেরকেও বিবাহ করিবার করিয়াছে অথবা
উত্তম আর মধ্যম
or
না বেঙ্গলি or
wa
it is and r means and
no wa
uttam
wa madhyam
Or so based or here it may be
no wa is clear. How to translate it in English? Suggest now.
must be or
best or moderate.
best or moderate.
Moderate I do not like, and best also, best is one only. Oh, Uttam also is one only. Okay. Best or medium.
It is a category. So category is best. In the category, many number of individuals can be.
But in moderate.
Madhyama.
Okay. I will say medium anyway. But this best
Mediocre.
best of moderate is wrong.
Best or
Best
moderate.
or Oh, small misprint. Mm-hmm. Oh. Best or moderate aspirants in the spiritual world, then it's all right. Had married or was wasting his energy by taking service like ordinary people without any special reason for earning money, or by engaging himself in any other worldly occupation with a view to acquiring name and fame. Another thing. Hearing that one of his boy devotees, Niranjana, had taken service, one day the master said to him, "You have taken service for maintaining your old mother, so I can put up with it. Otherwise, I could not have looked at your face." When another boy devotee married and came to see him, younger Narendra, because in Thakur's opinion, he was a high standard sadhak. Married and came to see him at the Kashipur garden, he threw his arms round his neck as one does when mourning the loss of a son and shed incessant tears, saying over and over again, "May you not forget God and completely sink in the sea of the world." Later on, what happened to younger Narendra? At the end of Kathamrit, all these things are given in Bengali. And there it says his married life was not happy. And he was an advocate. So he helped his mission throughout his life in legal cases. That is younger Narendra. And it is mentioned his married life was not happy. He could not fit in there. Now, these are all frank things. Whatever the people feel, they have to feel. But Saradananda Swamiji has written from Thakur's point of view. And he puts in one sentence in that this was his definite opinion on the matter. Sincere faith in God and foolishness are two different things. That simple and simpleton. Faith in God. One must have discrimination between the real and the unreal. That is the final discrimination. But in worldly matters, under the impulse of the new love for God, some devotees put a wrong interpretation on this, saying, "No one can progress in religion without faith," and started believing anything and any person. As soon as the keen eye of the master fell on them, he understood their condition and warned them. He no doubt advised people to tread the path of religion with faith alone as the guide. Faith in God and faith in the right teachers. But he nevertheless advised them not to give up discrimination between what was desirable and what was not. So, the real and real, all right. But it starts with like that. His opinion, we believe, was that one should proceed on the path of religion, exercising discrimination, and one should not be ready to do any worldly action without deliberating whether it was desirable or otherwise. One of those, Yogin Maharaj's example is there, one of those who had taken refuge in him one day, after warning a shopkeeper of divine chastisement of all dishonest person, purchased an iron pan from him. Now here, there was a Yogan Swamiji's life was being read in Advaita Ashram, and I mentioned something and they all said no, no. So let me see in the original Bengali. Clear? Bhatite Anayan Purva. They said no, no, it was for Thakur. I did not have Leelaprasanga in the end. I kept quiet. Yogan Maharaj, for his house, went to purchase a pan, not for Thakur.
That's I too remember.
Huh?
As far as I too remember, from where I don't know, but Thakur sent him and then
You see, in Yoganand Maharaj's biography or life, it is not very clear. So, or as if Thakur had something like that. So I said, this is wrong. While reading was going on, I said, this is wrong. For his house event, they said, no, it was for Thakur. So there is this interpretation somewhere. But Leelaprasanga does not say so. Leelaprasanga says body. One of those who had taken refuge in him, one day after warning a shopkeeper of divine chastisement of all dishonest person, okay, dharmer bhoy dekhachen, purchased an iron pan from him. When he came home, he found that the pan given by the shopkeeper had a crack in it. The master came to know of it. So nothing of this shows it was for the master. The master came to know of it and scolded him, saying, should one be a fool because one has to be a devotee of God? Has the shopkeeper set up a shop to practice religion? Dharma bhai dekhache tumhe. But he is not sitting for dharma, he is sitting for business. So by that he understood that he will not examine. And he deliberately gives a chitti. He will show seeing, and that is correct. So he gave it. Has the shopkeeper set up a shop to practice religion? And should piety be the reason for you to believe him and bring the pan without once examining it? Piety means religious. Never do so again. If you want to buy articles, you should ascertain their real price from a few shops, examine them thoroughly at the time of buying them, and you should not come away without taking the extra quantity of those articles which it is usual to give the customer when the transaction is over. Now this system has come. How? Previously, 100 mangoes means 105 or 108. And in vegetables, when you purchase, they used to put this dhane pata and mirchi. And now for that they will charge you.
carry that also they will charge.
Now the tempting thing is there. If you purchase this free, that price is included in that. Anyway, but that should be claimed if that is free. So in this there is one thing that we should go to 2-3 shops to ascertain the price. When we went to purchase this garland in Kumartuli. So in the first shop I saw this and he said 350 or something. Everything seemed reasonable. But I said, no, let's go to another shop and see. And I told him, he was not worried. I went to 2 or 3 shops and came back and said, give me. I told him, Thakur has told us to visit 2-3 shops.
Is it time?
Om Sarvadharma Stapakasam Sarvadharma Swarupakah Acharyana Acharyo Ramakrishnaya Te Namaha Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Leelaprasanga.